New Delhi, you're watching DD India News, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lynn. Namaskar. Coming up in the next hour. Hectic campaigning continues across 49 parliamentary constituencies in 8 states and union territories. 20th May marks the 5th phase of India's general elections. Russian President Vladimir Putin wraps up his 2-day visit to China. The leaders declare a new era of partnership, vowing to work together. The French police reinforcements start arriving in New Caledonia as part of a massive operation to regain control of the capital, Nouméa, following 3 nights of upheaval. Brazil is declared as the host of the 2027 Women's World Cup at the FIFA Congress. Brazil beat the joint bid of Belgium, Netherlands and Germany. Let's get you the latest on the world's largest democratic election in India. Campaigning is in full swing ahead of the 5th phase of polling on the 20th of May in India's general elections of 2024. Leaders of various parties are leaving no stone unturned to get their message across to the voters. Prime Minister Narendra Modi held an election rally in the North Indian state of Uttar Pradesh in Barabanki there, and he addressed the election rally and he hit out at the Congress and Samajwadi parties over what he called vote bank politics.
तो राम मंदिर पर सुप्रीम कोर्ट का फैसला पलटने की तैयारी कर रही है। कुछ लोगों ने यार ऐसा तो कैसे हो सकता है, भ्रम में मत रहिए। देश जब आजादी का आंदोलन कर रहा था ना, और देश के टुकड़े करने की बात आती थी, तो देश का हर व्यक्ति क्या नहीं यार देश के टुकड़े थोड़े होते हैं, देश के टुकड़े होते हैं। हो गए कि नहीं हो गए, इन्होंने कर दिया कि न कर दिया, ये किसी भी हद तक जा सकते हैं जी। इनका ट्रैक रिकॉर्ड ही ऐसा है। इनके लिए देश वेश कुछ नहीं है भाई, उनके लिए तो उनका परिवार और पावर।
The Prime Minister also held a campaign in Fatehpur constituency and he addressed the rally there. The Prime Minister said that the whole country knows that the Modi government is going to come back to power and make a hat-trick.
कि इज्जत बचाने के लिए अब कांग्रेस ने मिशन 50 रखा है और उन्होंने आदेश दिया कि भाई कुछ भी करो, आकाश पाताल एक कर दो, लेकिन कांग्रेस को कम से कम 50 सीटें मिल जाए, इसके लिए अब वो हाथ पैर इधर उधर मार रहे हैं।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi also addressed a public rally in Uttar Pradesh's Hamirpur on Friday. He hit out at the opposition parties for reservation politics. The Prime Minister said that the previous governments had made the farmers in Bundelkhand commit suicide, and today the farmers in Hamirpur, Jhansi and Jaldon, they are receiving the benefit of the Kisan Samman Nidhi program. That's free ration, free treatment and also houses made for them. The Congress leader Rahul Gandhi and the Samajwadi Party leader Akhilesh Yadav also addressed a joint public meeting in Amethi in Uttar Pradesh. The Congress General Secretary Jairam Ramesh on Friday held a press briefing in New Delhi. And talking to the media, he said that the India bloc is going to win the elections.
4 चरण के चुनाव हो चुके हैं लोकसभा के 379 सीटों में चुनाव हो चुका है और 25 तारीख को दिल्ली के 7 सीटों में चुनाव होने वाला है। इन 4 चरणों के बाद ये बिल्कुल स्पष्ट हो गया है, साफ हो गया है कि कांग्रेस पार्टी और इंडिया जनगठबंधन की पार्टियों को स्पष्ट और निर्णायक बहुमत मिलने वाला है।
Now, as the election campaigning has reached a sort of a crescendo, the leaders of the political parties, they are claiming victory in the parliamentary elections. Each party saying that they're going to win. DD India's correspondent Dibyendhu Mandal in West Bengal caught up with the BJP state president Sukanta Majumdar, and Majumdar spoke about his party's help to those who wish to apply for citizenship under the CAA.
Here in Bengal, I'm joined by the state president of the BJP, Sukanta Majumdar. Welcome to Doordarshan, sir. Sir, firstly, you have come to Bengal. This is a constituency where citizenship amendment is the crucial issue. Yesterday, we saw 14 people being granted, but there is confusion here that how people will apply for that. How will the BJP help?
Now see, this CAA was the long-standing demand of ours, not only the BJP and the people of this West Bengal, especially the refugee people. So after the election, we will hold some camps. In that we will educate the people how to apply for the citizenship, and they will apply and they will get the citizenship very easily. There are some doubts, ifs and buts, because the Mamata Banerjee, who is the chief minister of this state, has given some statement which is just against the law.
What are the issues now that the BJP will focus on?
Whole country is moving towards the third largest economy. So public of this country is very knowledgeable. Though they are aware, they know everything. They have already decided to elect Narendra Modi for the 3rd time.
Well, thank you so much. As you heard, Sukanta Majumdar saying that 30 seats is what the BJP is targeting here in Bengal, and the BJP hopes that they will be able to get those numbers from here in Bengal. With camera person PK, this is Dibyendhu Mandal from Bangaon in West Bengal for DD India.
And let's go across and talk to Dibyendhu Mandal now. He's joining us from Bangaon in West Bengal. Dibyendhu, so what's the electoral mood like? I mean, with elections in every phase in West Bengal, has any fatigue set in?
Well, Mark, I wouldn't say that there has been an election fatigue for the people of West Bengal. Because it's a very politically active and a very politically aware state where every citizen takes part in the celebration of democracy. And here in this particular phase, where approximately 7 seats are going to polls on the 20th of May, the excitement is equal. Both the BJP and the ruling Trinamool Congress are making every effort to ensure that the electorate vote in their favor. But of course, in this particular phase, there are important issues as we just saw about the Citizenship Amendment Act with regards to the, particularly with regards to the Lok Sabha constituency where I am currently. Here, remember, about over 40% of the electorate constitutes from the Mathua community, and for whom this citizenship amendment has been a crucial point of politics as well as a crucial demand for a very, very long time. So the fulfillment of that demand is something that is resonating well with the people here on ground. Apart from that, there are also some sections where there are confusion because of the fact that the ruling Trinamool Congress has taken a strong anti-CAA stand here. So of course, this particular issue is one of the burning issues for this election, and it was also the issue in 2019 as well. If we move to the other constituencies that are polling this time around, important issues such as corruption, unemployment is something that is resonating with the people and with the electorate here. But also the Trinamool Congress's, the Lakshmi Bhandar scheme, where people get, where women in fact get 1,000 rupees monthly, is something that is also the Trinamool Congress thinks is their Brahmastra, or perhaps their weapon through which they could get a large number of women vote this time around from this particular state. But of course,
Yes.
the battle is tough here in every seat. Here in West Bengal, you have also covered parts of West Bengal. You know how politically active the state is. So the battle is very tough on the ground. Back to you, Mark.
So, talking about that battle and that contest, Dibyendu, you did mention all the issues, and we see that perhaps CAA is going to be decisive in the constituency where you currently are. At least that's what your report suggests. So, I mean, what's the contest like in terms of weaving in these other issues that you talked about, you know, unemployment, those kind of issues? How are they being played out by the major political parties?
Well, Mark, you know, in this particular phase, the 7 constituencies that are going to polls are mostly semi-rural constituencies where employment is something that is crucial to the mind of every voter. So, you know, Bengal has not seen major industrialization or jobs for a very, very long time. So the youths here demands that they need to be given jobs, or opportunities need to be created here for the youths to get jobs. Of course, you know, employment is of course a very, very significant issue here in this particular phase, because most of the seats that are going to polls this time around are from the semi-rural background. And apart from that, Mark, also the issue of corruption here in Bengal is something that is also people are talking about, because you know, the ruling Trinamool Congress government have been embroiled in multiple cases of alleged corruption, where several of the ministers have been in jail for a very, very long time. Even the muscle men of TMC are some of them are in jail due to the issues of you know, alleged cattle, coal and sand smuggling and mining, illegal sand mining here in this state. So of course, you know, also the Sandesh Khali issue, where when we saw you know, women alleging that there have been cases of molestation, etc., something that the people of Bengal are talking about. Back to you.
Right. Also, obviously, women's safety will be an issue. But, you know, I mean, you did talk about muscle men and elections in West Bengal have been marred by violence in the past. So to what extent, you know, are measures being taken to minimize that to the least?
Oh, well, you know, this time around we have seen, we have not seen any major issue of violence in the last 4 phases of election. That has already taken place. But, you know, there have been stray incidents of violence that we saw in all the other phases that have already gone by. But, you know, the Election Commission has requested for about hundreds of companies of paramilitary forces that would be doing route marches, especially in the rural areas where, you know, muscles rules the roost is what people in Bengal, in many parts of the rural areas of Bengal, they say. So, of course, you know, route marches by the paramilitary forces are being carried out here by the Election Commission. The Election Commission has also put up political as well as, you know, police observers to ensure that the movement of the paramilitary forces are being done adequately, and keeping in mind the sensitivity of the areas where reports of such violence do take place. If I talk about this particular phase, Mark, Barakpur is a constituency where, you know, violence have been predominant over the last many years. And this time around also, the Election Commission as well as the local administration are taking adequate measures by deploying extra number of paramilitary forces there to ensure that the violence, that the election is violence-free, or the violence in these particular areas are reduced to the minimal. So all efforts are being taken to ensure that it's a free and fair election.
We leave it there. Thank you very much, Dibyendu Mandal, joining us from West Bengal. Still to come here in on DD India News Hour. India's External Affairs Ministry says that the Chabahar port project will benefit the entire region, particularly landlocked Afghanistan and Central Asia. Russian President Vladimir Putin visits the Harbin Institute of Technology campus in China's northeastern city of Harbin. .
we are looking at a seminal relationship that is redefining world politics, the so-called no-limits strategic partnership between Russia and China.
These two countries are actually trying to create a world order which moves away from Brussels and Washington DC.
If you look at any chance of a conflict between India and China, it would be very difficult for us to imagine that Russia would put all its weight behind India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Now, the Indian Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said that India is expected to contribute 18% to global growth in the next 5 years, delivering a keynote address at the annual Business Summit of the Confederation of Indian Industry on Friday in New Delhi. Sitharaman also said that the Indian consumer market is poised to double by 2031. She highlighted India's recognition as the fastest growing economy by global observers and expressed confidence in the nation's economic transformation.
India's story is a compelling growth story. The IMF estimated that India's contribution to the global growth for 5 years beginning 2023 will be 18%. So between 2023 and 28, we are looking at an India which is going to be actually very dynamic, contributing 18% to the global growth. Now, another agency, the S&P Global Market Intelligence, has also highlighted quite a few points. I'll highlight only 3 of what the observations are. The Indian consumer market is likely to double by 2031. I'm not saying from where it is going to reach what level. I'm only highlighting the opportunity that lies in that consumer market doubling. $2.9 trillion opportunity lies waiting in that. S&P also says consumer spending on food is estimated to rise to $1.4 trillion US. Again, a $1 trillion opportunity lies in waiting in that as well. S&P's third observation, spending on financial services will climb to $670 billion US. There, it's a $390 billion opportunity that lies waiting for us.
The Finance Minister also stressed on the importance of growing India's manufacturing share in global value chain. She added that expanding manufacturing will help India to be self-reliant.
I like to highlight the fact that manufacturing must increase. India must also increase, with the help of policies, its share in manufacturing in global value chains. So, we need to have greater sophistication in our product manufacturing. We also need to see how best this can be given policy support. Capgemini Research Institute gave a report which came out in May 2024 that India figures at the top of the list of investment destinations for senior executives in Europe and in the US who are looking to reduce their dependence on China and shift part of their manufacturing capacity to emerging markets. So their preference is for India. 65% of nearly 760 executives surveyed were planning to increase investments significantly in India. Expanding manufacturing also will be to help India be self-reliant. Atmanirbhar Bharat.
The Finance Minister also spoke on India's transition to green energy, delivering a keynote address at the annual Business Summit on the Confederation of Indian Industry on Friday in New Delhi. The Finance Minister said This was sure to generate a new market, employment and global demand.
Another highlightable point, which I'm sure is already observed, is India's transition towards green energy, green economy, sustainable and future which is responsibly got to be built up. It is sure to generate a new market and global demand. A 2021 report of the World Economic Forum projects that 50 million net new economy jobs are going to be created in India because of that, and a 1 trillion economic impact by the year 2030. You already see that in solar energy, the push that has been given due to the favorable policies of the government, other than of course the favorable policies on green hydrogen, green ammonia, all of which are really taking good concrete shape. The solar energy itself has shown the extent to which job creation possibilities exist at various levels.
At the CII summit, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar stated that the Indian economy has the potential to make significant strides towards a developed India, adding that such progress relies heavily on robust support from businesses. Jaishankar also said that the country needs Make in India, Invest in India, Procure in India, Design in India and Research in India.
Our commitment is both to enhance capabilities and competitiveness in orthodox manufacturing, as well as to enter the sunrise sectors of semiconductors, electric vehicles, batteries, green and clean technologies, drones and space. That is the way by which the Indian economy can leapfrog in its journey towards Viksit Bharat, but we can be successful only with the full support of business. So we not only need Make in India, we need Invest in India, we need Procure in India, we need Design in India, and we need Research in India.
Well, the Indian economy is projected to expand by 6.9% in 2024 and 6.6% in 2025 as the United Nations has revised upwards India's growth projections. And it will mainly be driven by strong public investment and resilient private consumption. Pharmaceuticals and chemicals exports are expected to expand strongly. The World Economic Situation and Prospects report as of mid-2024 was released on Thursday. The economic growth projections for India in the mid-year update. These projections are upward from 6.2% GDP forecast made by the UN in January of this year. The projection for India's GDP growth for 2025 remains unchanged at 6.6% in the latest assessment of the economic situation. South Asia's economic outlook is expected to remain strong, supported by a robust performance of India's economy. The update said that consumer price inflation in India is projected to decelerate, staying within the central bank's medium-term target range. Similarly, inflation rates in other South Asian countries declined in 2023 and they are expected to decelerate further in 2024. In India, labour markets indicators, they have also improved amidst the robust growth and also higher labour force participation. The report also said that India's government remains committed to gradually reducing the fiscal deficit and seeking to increase capital investment. It noted that several large developing economies, Indonesia, India and Mexico, are benefiting from strong domestic and external demand. Global trade is expected to recover in 2024. In a weekly briefing of the External Affairs Ministry in India on the protest in POK, the ministry has said that exploitative policies of Pakistan deny the local people their rights over resources and their benefits.
ने रिपोर्ट देखा है कि पिछले कुछ दिनों में वहाँ पर विरोध प्रदर्शन हुआ, उसमें कुछ लोग हताहत हुए। ये विरोध ये परिणाम है वहाँ पर जिस प्रकार की नीतियाँ चल रही हैं, वहाँ के संसाधन को जिस प्रकार से लूटा जा रहा है, वहाँ के लोगों को जितना दूर रखा जा रहा है इन संसाधन से, अपने संसाधन से उनका लाभ नहीं पहुँच रहा है। इस कारण से ये हो रहा है और जो वहाँ का तंत्र है वहाँ पर लोगों का वो एक्सप्लॉइट कर रहे हैं, उनको उनके संसाधन हैं उसका लाभ उन तक नहीं पहुँच पा रहा है। जहाँ तक हम लोगों ने पहले भी कहा है, जहाँ तक पाकिस्तान अधिकृत कश्मीर की बात है, यूनियन टेरिटरीज जो जम्मू के, लद्दाख के और कश्मीर के जो हैं वो भारत के अभिन्न अंग हैं, अभिन्न अंग रहेंगे। ये हमारा बल है।
Well, India also stressed on the commitment towards the Chabahar port and said that they realize its potential as a connectivity hub for Afghanistan and Central Asian countries which are landlocked.
We signed the long-term agreement for the operation of Chabahar port. Our minister was there. This has obviously it's a major achievement for us. We see a Chabahar as India's commitment towards realizing the potential of the place as a connectivity hub for Afghanistan and for landlocked Central Asian countries. Our External Affairs Minister also spoke on this matter in several forums recently, where he said that we should not take a narrow view of this particular project. It has an important role to play as far as the region is concerned, connectivity is concerned, particularly for the landlocked countries in the area.
Russian President Vladimir Putin termed the US tariffs on Chinese-made electric vehicles as unfair competition. Putin's visit to China is aimed at enhancing the relationship between the two strongest rivals of the United States.
Unfortunately, nowadays, world is arranged in a way that situation connected with unfair competitions struggle appear. Recently, the Americans imposed sanctions on China on electric transport, on electric cars.
The Russian President Vladimir Putin on Friday visited the Harbin Institute of Technology campus during his visit to China's northeastern city Harbin, which has historic ties to Russia. Accompanied by the officials from the institute, Putin shook a robotic hand and wrote down a message for the school. Putin arrived in Harbin to kick off the second leg of his two-day state visit to China after his victory in the Russian presidential election. The Russian President Vladimir Putin has wrapped up his two-day state visit to China that saw derailed talks on Ukraine, Asia, energy and trade with Chinese President Xi Jinping. The two leaders declared a new era of partnership, vowing to work together against what they said was destructive and hostile US pressure. Laura Westbrook reports from Hong Kong.
President Vladimir Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping agreed to deepen their strategic partnership, tighten military ties, and cooperate further in the face of US containment of both countries. China views Russia as a key partner and ally when it comes to countering US strength and wants to form with Moscow a so-called multipolar world. President Putin, meanwhile, wants to ensure that its diplomatic and economic support from China remains intact following its invasion of Ukraine. And so the optics of this trip were high. The two leaders could be seen sipping tea. They went for a stroll before President Putin went to the northeastern city of Harbin. This is a city with close cultural and historical ties to Russia. And there his focus turned to trade. He says he wants to see energy cooperation between the two countries continue to grow. And bilateral trade between the two countries has reached a record $240 billion last year, although we have seen Chinese exports dip for the first time in March. Beijing, too, is under increasing pressure from the United States to stop supplying dual-use technologies that can end up on the battlefield. The US has also threatened to sanction Chinese state-owned banks. China is also under increasing pressure from the United States when it comes to forced labor. The United States says it will stop importing 26 Chinese cotton traders. This is aimed at eliminating goods from the US supply chain that is made through forced labor. Beijing has called this move, saying that it's aimed at disrupting stability in Xinjiang, and is said that it is also aimed at containing China's development. The US says Chinese authorities have established forced labor camps for Uyghur minorities in the Xinjiang region. Beijing, though, has denied any abuse. Laura Westbrook in Hong Kong, reporting for DD India.
Still to come here on DD India News Hour. 8 trucks begin moving through a temporary US-built pier off the Gaza Strip. Hundreds of French police start deploying to secure New Caledonia.
We are looking at a seminal relationship that is redefining world politics, the so-called no-limits strategic partnership between Russia and China.
These two countries are actually trying to create a world order which moves away from Brussels and Washington, D.C.
If you look at any chance of a conflict between India and China, it would be very difficult for us to imagine that Russia would put all its weight behind India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Let's give you a recap of the main stories. Hectic campaigning continues across 49 parliamentary constituencies in 8 states and union territories. 20th May marks the 5th phase of India's general election. Russian President Vladimir Putin wraps up his 2-day visit to China. The leaders declare a new era of partnership, vowing to work together. The French police reinforcements start arriving in New Caledonia as part of the massive operation to regain control of the capital, Nouméa, following 3 nights of upheaval. Brazil declared as the host of the 2027 Women's World Cup at the FIFA Congress. Brazil beat the joint bid of Belgium, the Netherlands and Germany. And moving on to the West Asian region now, and additional troops for the ground situation and operation in southern Gaza city of Rafah. The Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant has said that hundreds of targets have already been struck and the forces are maneuvering in the area.
Several tunnels have been destroyed by our troops, and additional tunnels will be destroyed soon. The activity will intensify. Hamas is not an organization that can reorganize at the moment. It does not have the reserve troops. It does not have the ability to produce munitions. It cannot treat the terrorists that have been hit.
Well, the military wing of Hamas has released a video on Thursday of an attack on the Israeli tank, on an Israeli tank in Jabalia. The Israeli military says that its Operation Rafah is meant to kill Hamas terrorists and to dismantle the infrastructure used by that group. Mourners gathered at Jerusalem's Mount Herzl at the military cemetery there for a funeral service of Captain Roy Beat Yaakov. He was mistakenly killed, in fact, by Israeli tank fire in Gaza. Satellite imagery showed the construction of a temporary pier on the Gaza coastline. The U.S. Central Command said that the 8 trucks began moving through the U.S.-built pier on Friday morning. Earlier, a floating pier was pre-assembled by the U.S. military at the Israeli port of Ashdod, and it moved into place on the shore of Gaza.
We have hundreds of tons of aid ready for delivery and thousands of tons of aid in the pipeline. Some of this aid has already been loaded onto motor vessel Roy P. Benavides, which is currently off the coast of Gaza. To emphasize again, This is a mission to get humanitarian aid into Gaza, and an attack on those dedicated to this mission would jeopardize the life-saving aid needed for the Palestinian people.
Okay, DD India correspondent Sarah Coates is now joining us from Tel Aviv. We spoke to her earlier in the day as well. Sarah, what's the latest on the aid coming into the floating pier?
Hello there, Mark. We have heard from US Central Command that pier is now complete with trucks now moving across this floating port, bringing this much needed, vital, life-saving humanitarian aid to the people in Gaza who so desperately need it. Now, CENTCOM came out once again to say that none of these US troops would actually touch their feet on the soil of Gaza. Now, what we can expect over the coming weeks is this number of trucks to increase. The military says, the US military says, that this pier can facilitate some 150 trucks per day or 500 tons of vital humanitarian aid. But really, when you look at that on a scale of what's needed inside the Gaza Strip, it is simply not enough. And this is what we've been hearing from aid groups. They are once again pressing Israel to open up these land crossings like the Rafah border crossing, which of course remains closed due to an ongoing military operation down in that area. Before the war began, at least 500 trucks were coming into Gaza on a daily basis. So certainly this is well below that, with some aid groups saying that over the past few days, less than 100 have been getting in every day. So certainly much more is needed there, Mark.
Also, Sarah, what's the latest then on the offensive in Rafah?
We do know that heavy fighting is continuing right across the Strip, including in that southern region of Rafah, which we do need to remember was declared a safe zone up until fairly recently. This was an area where at least 1.3 million internally displaced Palestinians are sheltering. Now, according to the United Nations, already some 630,000 people have been forced to flee there, many of these moving to the Al-Mawasi area, which is in the southern area on the west, on the coastline there. But certainly the Israeli military is looking at expanding its ground operation down in Rafah, despite right now calling it a limited operation. We did hear from the Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. He spoke out yesterday saying that more troops are being deployed to Rafah. Now, he did have a phone conversation last night with the Pentagon Chief Lloyd Austin, with Austin reaffirming to him once again the necessity of protecting civilians on the ground and also allowing as much aid as possible to flow into this area. So certainly a lot of concern as to where these people are going. People on the ground saying they're being bombarded basically from all angles, and there's simply not enough help for these people, Mark.
Sarah Coates in Tel Aviv, thanks very much. French police reinforcements began arriving in New Caledonia on Friday in a massive push to regain control of the capital. The French authorities and Interior Ministry in Paris reported that 4 people were killed and hundreds arrested in violence after protests this week. The protests erupted over voting reforms pushed by the French President Macron's government in the Pacific Island territory. And Ross Cullen now joins us from Paris with more on this story. Well, Ross, what's the state of the emergency in New Caledonia?
Well, hello, Mark. The Pacific Islands Forum has called for a return to dialogue today. We are now seeing some pressure from outside the French Pacific Ocean territory to call for calm. Now, last night, which was Thursday night into Friday day, was calmer. That was definitely a more peaceful situation in certain parts of the island. However, the top administrative official in New Caledonia has admitted that certain areas are still outside the control of the state. That is what Paris is hoping to secure full control of the island with these additional security personnel, police forces, special police and armed forces being deployed to the island. And we know that on Friday, the army did actually come face to face with some of the rioters in and around the main international airport. Certainly areas of the capital, Nouméa, are not yet secure by the state. This has been the rioting and looting that we have seen, this civil unrest going on all week now, beginning at the start of the week before a contentious, controversial reform vote, during the vote, and then continuing Wednesday, Thursday and today after the vote as well, with shops torched and looted, cars set on fire, police stations attacked, all of it after protests against this constitutional reform became violent and started to spiral out of control. We have heard also, Mark, today, Friday, from the Justice Minister here in Paris, Eric Dupont-Moretti, and he has said that he is calling for a firm, rapid and systematic response to crimes committed in New Caledonia.
Also, Ross, one wonders, on a normal day, before all this started, did Paris have enough control on a regular basis of this overseas territory?
Well, it's an important overseas territory for Paris. It does have troops stationed there and has 1.5 million citizens in the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. These overseas territories like Réunion Island, French Polynesia and New Caledonia. So it's very important for Paris to be able to have control and show that it does have control of those areas, to be able to project the influence, because it is a domestic arena for France. It sees the Indian Ocean and Pacific Ocean territories as domestic areas where they want to have that regional influence, that geopolitical influence, aware that China is growing in power and in influence in that area as well.
Ross Cullen from Paris, thanks very much. After severe storms, heavy rains flooded Louisiana in the United States on Friday. The National Weather Service had given flood warnings after Thursday night storms, and the city had received about 600% of the downpours in the past week, impacting lives and routines all around. 600%. Claiming 4 lives, a severe hurricane-level storm had battered the United States' Houston, and the high-intensity storm left 800,000 families without power supply. The National Weather Service also issued a flood alert because of the heavy rains caused by the storms. According to the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, the climate change has triggered coral bleaching in about 2/3 of the world's coral reefs. An El Nino patterned climate has impacted ocean temperatures. Document records from nearly 62 countries have shown that mass coral bleaching is taking place. Scientists from the University of Western Australia and Kelpie Geosciences in the United Kingdom have recorded a rare footage of a deep-sea hooked squid. Now, the squid mistook the camera for prey, wrapping its arms around it with both ends illuminating in bright bioluminescent lights to shock the prey. Interesting footage there. Still to come here on DD India News Hour. Brazil becomes the first South American country to be selected for the 2027 Women's World Cup. Anmol Rai becomes Miss Pink Nepal 2024 to represent Nepal in the Miss International Queen contest to be held in Thailand this year. A visit to the famous Malihabad orchard of mangoes in the Indian state of Uttar Pradesh.
We are looking at a seminal relationship that is redefining world politics, the so-called no-limits strategic partnership between Russia and China.
These two countries are actually trying to create a world order which moves away from Brussels and Washington DC.
If you look at any chance of a conflict between India and China, it would be very difficult for us to imagine that Russia would put all its weight behind India.
You're watching DD India News. I'm Mark Lynn. Well, Malihabad, which is the largest mango belt in Uttar Pradesh, is home to numerous families who have been farming mangoes for over 2 centuries. They are going to be exercising their franchise on the 20th of May, and DD India correspondent Tapas Bhattacharya spoke to some of them.
Into Malihabad, the vibrant core of Uttar Pradesh's mango kingdom. Here, boasting the largest mango belt and a prestigious geographical indication tag, resides a community deeply rooted in mango farming for over 2 centuries. But amidst their pride, it lies a pressing concern. What are the challenges they face and what are their aspirations for the upcoming general elections? Let's dwell in this story.
Uttar Pradesh Malihabad is synonymous with some of the best mangoes not just in the country but around the globe. Here, generations have toiled the fertile soil to cultivate some of the finest varieties of mango known to man. For centuries, families have nurtured the land, passing down their knowledge from one generation to the next, producing delicious varieties such as Dasheri, Langda and Chausa. Meet the Mango Man of India, Haji Kalimullah Khan, whose love for this juicy fruit earned him Padma Shri. His love for the mangoes is what makes him grow over 1,600 varieties on his 8-acre land.
When I was a teenager, I had planted saplings of 7 different varieties of mangoes. This is all a gift from nature.
With depleting groundwater and infiltration of counterfeit pesticide, the very foundation of Malihabad's mango economy is under threat.
The whole world is now facing problems related to scarcity of water, as most of the rainwater is going into the sea. Earlier, groundwater level in Malihabad used to be 26 to 27 feet, but now it has gone down to 80 feet.
The main issues we face right now is the infiltration of counterfeit pesticides. If the government works towards curbing this problem, then it will be of huge help.
As elections looms, the plight of these farmers has seldom been a point of focus. Yet, their challenges resonate deeply as questions about crop damage and lack of development linger.
Amidst the backdrop of a global pandemic, the mango economy faced its toughest challenge yet. With trading restrictions and supply chain disruption, many farmers are now contemplating drastic measures to survive. As Malihabad grapples with these problems, one thing remains certain: the resilience of its people. With camera person Gaurav Grid, this is Tapas Bhattacharya for DD India from Malihabad, UP.
And next we bring you the glitz and glamour from the 77th edition of the Cannes Film Festival in France. On day 4 of the festival, on Friday, we're going to see a round table on a whole lot of subjects at the Bharat Pavilion. These are exploring bilateral film co-productions between India and Spain, revisiting Manthan at Cannes Classics 2024, also navigating distribution dilemmas of the restored Indian classics worldwide, navigating also the complexities of film marketing, and also understanding India's strengths in visual effects and animation. Now, the Indian classic Manthan by Shyam Benegal was screened at the Cannes Classics section of the 77th edition of the festival. This 1976 film is based on the pioneering milk cooperative movement of Dr. Varghese Kurian, the father of the White Revolution in India. The film's reels were preserved in film walls for several decades, and then they were restored. And the restoration process actually took a whole year. And DD India's Munmun Bhattacharya spoke to the team of Sunflowers, were the first ones to know in Cannes. This short film has been made by students of the Film and Television Institute of India, and is going to be competing for the La Cinef section of the Cannes Film Festival. Let's listen.
The team of Sunflowers were first ones to know is with me here in Cannes. It is competing in the La Cinef section of the Cannes Film Festival. They are FTII students. Chidanand Nayak is the director of the film, and we also have Suraj, the director of photography, and Abhishek, sound designer, is also with us. Such a pleasure to have all three of you here on DD India. Chidanand, tell us how the idea was conceived, what is the backstory to it, and a little about the storyline.
So we are students from the television wing of FTI. So we have to do a final project. So the Manoj and my editor Manoj and me always wanted to make a Kannada film. So that's how the idea started, to make a Kannada film. And then when we were brainstorming with the team, so I pitched this idea came up, and they were quite excited with the idea. And when we deeply asking and when we explored more, I realized they have never heard about this story, and which was such a popular story in Karnataka, nobody else knew it. So, and the story.
Tell us a little about the story.
So it's a film based on a folktale where a granny thinks because of a rooster the sun rises, and she takes the roosters and gets away. So the film is based on that story, and everyone liked the idea and everyone wanted to tell that narrative. So that's how we started making the film.
Any challenges, Suraj, you faced in videographing it?
There were a lot of challenges. The first challenge we faced was to find a location, because the film is based in unknown location and the time period is not definite. Me and Abhishek, we searched for almost 50-60 villages for the location, and the location we got was very rural. There were no network, no proper roads, so our crew couldn't get easily there. The lights I wanted to take, that was not possible. We tried to light up with the fire, and the moonlight, and how to deal with that was the main challenge I faced.
And how did you create sounds in the film?
So as this story completely takes place in an unknown period of time in the past, so I had to make sure that none of the modern sounds make it to the film. And I tried to combine them in a way that sells the story as something that's happening in a magical land, in a fantasy land. So I didn't go the conventional way of doing the things as are done in usual night scenes. I even used sounds that are heard in the day in the film, just to make it as magical as possible. Since this is a folk tale, you have to sell it that way. So that's how I approached the sound of this film.
You're watching DD India News Hour. Let's get you the sports news now. And football's governing body FIFA on Friday announced that Brazil is going to be the host of the 2027 Women's World Cup. At the FIFA Congress, they have beaten the joint bid of Belgium, Netherlands and Germany to become the first South American country to hold this tournament.
Brazil is set to host the 2027 Women's World Cup after FIFA declared it as the host at the FIFA Congress on Friday, beating the joint bid of Belgium, Netherlands and Germany to become the first South American country to hold the tournament. The Brazil bid received the backing of 119 member associations of the FIFA Congress to host the 10th edition of the competition, compared to 78 votes for the European bid. Brazil was given a slight edge in the run-up to Friday's vote after a FIFA technical evaluation released last week gave it a score of 4 out of 5 versus 3.7 for the Belgium-Netherlands-Germany bid. The race was whittled down to 2 last month after the United States and Mexico withdrew their joint bid to pursue the 2031 tournament instead.
We are a South American country who have achieved a victory for the world, a victory for women's soccer. We have to take into account that athletes can play in the schools, on the streets, and in the end they come to greatness. They can be part of a club, part of a team. Right now I am euphoric, but I would like to propose a theme that is impacting all us Brazilians, a tragedy, a catastrophe due to climate changes in Rio Grande do Sul, in the south of Brazil, where we have lost many lives, many families are homeless. Our achievement today is that Brazil is to host for the first time a Women's World Cup, the first to be held on the South American continent, a world that will be developed, and it could strengthen women's soccer in Brazil and South America, and in particular in Rio Grande do Sul, where we are hoping to have a large center to develop women's soccer.
FIFA President Gianni Infantino said the Brazil tournament would be the best Women's World Cup ever.
Congratulations to Brazil, and we will organize, of course, the best FIFA World Cup ever in Brazil. And many thanks as well to the BNG bid, who has been fantastic.
The FIFA assessment scored each bid on criteria ranging from commercial viability, team facilities and accommodation to broadcast sites, stadiums and fan festival venues. It said Brazil's 10 stadiums were purpose-built and configured for major tournaments, having hosted the 2014 Men's World Cup, and the bid had a strong commercial position and government commitment. It highlighted the compact nature and support behind the Belgium-Netherlands-Germany bid, solid commercial viability, good infrastructure and short distances between venues, but also noted the smaller capacities of its 13 stadiums. Sports Desk, DD India.
The 44th homecoming day of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina is celebrated by the ruling Awami League in Bangladesh on Friday. Sheikh Hasina returned to Bangladesh on 17th of May 1981 after a long exile in India following the brutal murder of her father, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, along with most of his family members on the 15th of August 1975. Sheikh Hasina and her younger sister, Sheikh Rehana, survived as they were out of the country on the day of the ghastly incident. She arrived in Dhaka from Delhi, where she was provided a safe house by the government of India after the assassination of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. Earlier in February, she was elected the president of the Awami League in February of 1981 in her absence, and also addressing party workers after her return from India. Sheikh Hasina had declared that she came back to Bangladesh to participate in the struggle for freedom by staying besides the people of the country. The delegation of senior Awami League leaders offered greetings to the Prime Minister at her official residence, Gano Bhabhan. This was in the morning today. Anmol Rai became Miss Pink Nepal 2024 to represent Nepal in the Miss International Queen contest to be held in Thailand this year. At a gala event organized in Kathmandu, Miss Pink Nepal 2024 was selected among 18 trans women contestants. Anmol Rai, a trans woman, was chosen as Miss Pink Nepal 2024, followed by the first runner-up, Sarosi Nupane, and the second runner-up, Arohi Basnet. Well, that's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour. Let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those of you on the go, you can get the latest news from India and the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code and download it. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Mark Lynn. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks very much for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.